Hey everyone, I'm sharing this story here because I really need to vent and maybe get some advice from people who've been through something similar. It's been a roller coaster of emotions and I feel like I'm stuck in a nightmare I can't wake up from. Here's what happened. I've been working at this franchise for about 3 years now. My boss, let's call him M, has been a co-owner for about 5 years, and his wife, E, is our office manager. They have 2 kids, one of whom is just barely a year old. Our office is small, just 5 people including M.E. and me, along with 2 other female co-workers, A and R. Last Thursday during his lunch break, I went to ask M about something work-related. His office door was slightly open, so I knocked and pushed it open a bit more. That's when I saw them, M and R, making out in his office. M had his hands wrapped tightly around her waist, grabbing her butt, and R had her arms around his neck. They immediately pulled back when they saw me, trying to act like nothing happened. But it was too late. The image was burned into my mind. I was in shock. I didn't know what to do or say. I just awkwardly mumbled something about coming back later and quickly left the room. My heart was racing and my mind was spinning. I felt sick to my stomach. This was my boss and my coworker doing something incredibly inappropriate right there in the office. The next day, Friday, my husband and I had to stay home because he was exposed to someone with COVID, and we were both feeling pretty ill. I couldn't stop thinking about what I had seen, and I knew I had to tell E. I messaged her, asking if we could talk in person. She replied that she was out of town until next week and asked me to call her instead. I hesitated, but I knew I couldn't keep this to myself. So I called her and told her everything. E was in shock. She didn't say much at first, just kept repeating, "I can't believe this." I felt awful for being the bearer of such bad news, but I knew she needed to know. She thanked me for telling her and said she would handle it. That was the end of our conversation. A few hours later, M called my phone while I was in the shower. My husband answered and told me M wanted me to call him back. I couldn't bring myself to do it. My nerves were shot and my anxiety was through the roof. I knew this conversation wouldn't go well, and I just couldn't face it. Today, I decided to check my work email to see what was on the agenda for Monday. To my surprise, I was locked out. I tried logging into our scheduling website, but I couldn't get in there either. I messaged M, asking what was going on. He replied that I was no longer employed due to excessive absences. This was a shock because, according to our company policy, termination would be the 3rd offense for excessive absences, and this was only my first. I live in an at-will right-to-work state, which means employers can terminate employees for almost any reason, or no reason at all. So now I'm out of a job, and there's nothing I can do about it. It's clear to me that I was fired because I told E about Ms. affair. This whole situation feels so unfair. TLDR, I caught my boss cheating on his wife, my manager, with a coworker. I told the wife, and now I'm fired for a completely unrelated reason. I can't do anything about it because of the state's employment laws. Edit. I did already contact a lawyer, minutes after I found out I was terminated. They said there's basically nothing I can do. Edit 2. A lot of people are mad that I made their marriage my business, but when an affair is happening 10 feet from my desk in an office I'm in for 40 hours a week, and I work with all 3 of the people involved, that's my business now. I didn't ask to walk in on them. It just happened. Maybe people shouldn't conduct their affairs where they work, but that's too hard for some of you to wrap your minds around. Edit 3. This is an old post that people are still commenting on, saying I was fired for telling the wife, that I'm nosy, etc. I did not ask to catch them cheating. And when I told his wife, I was making a complaint to my manager about an uncomfortable work situation. I guarantee half of you commenting this dumb shit would be pissed to find out someone knew of your spouse having an affair and didn't tell you, and the other half would be the ones having the affair. I need to rewind a bit to give more context about our work environment and why this entire ordeal feels so incredibly messed up. Our office was more like a family than a workplace. M and E had always treated us like we were part of their extended family. We celebrated birthdays together, shared personal stories, and generally supported each other through thick and thin. That's why seeing M with R felt like a personal betrayal, not just a professional one. R joined our team about a year ago. She was always friendly and outgoing, the kind of person who lights up a room when she walks in. At first, I thought she was just being extra friendly with M because he was her boss. But as time went on, I noticed little things, lingering glances, inside jokes that no one else was in on, and a certain way they seemed to be always around each other. I shrugged it off as me overthinking things. I mean, who would cheat on their wife with a newborn baby at home, right? After the incident in Ms. office, I couldn't get the image out of my head. I kept replaying it, trying to make sense of it. Why would they risk everything for an office fling? The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. This wasn't just about the cheating. It was about the complete disregard for everyone else in the office. When I called E to tell her what happened, I could hear the pain in her voice. She sounded so small and broken. It made me realize how devastating this would be for her, not just as a wife, but as a mother and a professional. E was the backbone of our office. She handled everything from scheduling to payroll, and she always did it with a smile. I felt guilty for bringing this pain into her life, but I knew she deserved to know the truth. Over the weekend, I kept expecting M to call again, or maybe even show up at my house. He didn't. Instead, I was left to stew in my own anxiety. My husband was incredibly supportive, reassuring me that I did the right thing, but it was hard to feel good about any of it. Monday morning, after realizing I was locked out of my work accounts, I felt a wave of panic. How was I going to explain this to my husband? We rely on both our incomes to make ends meet. I called my lawyer friend immediately, hoping there was some loophole or protection I didn't know about. Unfortunately, the news wasn't good. In our state, employers have a lot of freedom when it comes to terminating employees. I spent the rest of the day oscillating between anger and despair. I kept thinking about E and their kids. What was she going through right now? Had she confronted M? Were they fighting? And what about R? Was she aware of the fallout from her actions? The whole situation was a mess, and there seemed to be no way to make any of it right. By Tuesday, I knew I had to start looking for a new job. I updated my resume, reached out to contacts, and scoured job boards. It was demoralizing. I had loved my job and the people I worked with, and now I had to start all over again because of someone else's betrayal. The support I received from my husband and a few close friends was the only thing keeping me sane. They reminded me that I did the right thing, that my integrity was intact, even if my job wasn't. But it was hard to see the bright side when everything felt so bleak. Then, a few days later, I received a message from A. She had heard about my termination and wanted to meet up. We decided to grab coffee at a local cafe. When I walked in, I could see the concern etched on her face. She gave me a hug, and we sat down to talk. A told me that after I left, things had gotten tense in the office. M was on edge, snapping at everyone and acting paranoid. R was trying to play it cool, but A could tell she was just as anxious. E hadn't come back to the office yet, which wasn't a good sign. As we talked, I realized how much I missed my job and my coworkers. It wasn't just about the paycheck. It was about the sense of belonging, the camaraderie we shared. Losing that felt like losing a part of myself. A mention that she had overheard M and R talking about me, saying that I was a troublemaker and that it was good I was gone. That stung. I had always tried to be a good employee, a team player. To hear that they were bad-mouthing me was like salt in the wound. After our meeting, I felt a bit better knowing that at least someone in the office understood what I was going through. A assured me that she and the others were on my side, which was comforting. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into job hunting. I had a few interviews, but nothing panned out. It was frustrating and demoralizing. My confidence took a hit every time I received a rejection email, but I kept pushing forward, knowing that I had to keep going for my own sake and for my family's. One evening, while I was scrolling through job listings, my phone buzzed. It was a message from E. She asked if we could meet up. My heart raced as I replied, agreeing to meet her at a nearby park the next day. When we met, E looked tired and worn out, like she hadn't slept in days. She thanked me again for telling her the truth and said that she had confronted M about the affair. He admitted to it, but claimed it was just a one-time mistake. E didn't believe him, and they were now in the midst of a separation. She had taken the kids and was staying with her sister. E apologized for what happened to me and said that she was trying to sort things out on her end. She assured me that if she could do anything to help me, she would. We talked for a while, and it felt good to have someone validate my feelings and experiences. After our meeting, I felt a renewed sense of determination. I wasn't going to let this setback define me. I would find a new job, rebuild my career, and move forward. It wouldn't be easy, but I knew I could do it. Over the next few months, I continued to search for a new job. It was a slow process, but eventually, I landed a position at a company that seemed like a good fit. The pay wasn't as high, but the work environment was positive and supportive. It felt like a fresh start. Looking back, the whole experience taught me a lot about resilience and integrity. It wasn't easy, and there were times when I felt like giving up. But I kept going, and in the end, I came out stronger. I still think about E and the kids, wondering how they're doing. I hope they find peace and happiness despite everything that happened. As for M and R, I try not to dwell on them. They made their choices, and now they have to live with the consequences. In the end, all we can do is move forward, learn from our experiences, and try to make the best of the situations we're given. That's what I'm trying to do, one day at a time. After getting my new job, things slowly started to get back to normal. Well, as normal as they could be after everything that had happened. The new job was different, and it took some getting used to, but the people were kind, and the work was engaging. It was a welcome change after the chaos of the past few months. I thought I was done with the whole ordeal, but life has a funny way of surprising you. About a month into my new job, I received a message from one of my former coworkers, A. She wanted to catch up and see how I was doing. We decided to meet for lunch that weekend. When we met, A looked a bit more relaxed than the last time I saw her, but there was still a hint of worry in her eyes. We chatted about our lives, catching up on the little things. Then she dropped a bombshell. E is suing M for divorce, A said, her voice low. I wasn't surprised, but hearing it out loud made it feel more real. A went on to explain that things had gotten ugly between M and E. M was trying to keep the business, but E was fighting for her share. There were rumors flying around the office about M and R, and it seemed like everyone was walking on eggshells. I'll also mention that the atmosphere in the office had gotten even more toxic. M was being more demanding and short-tempered, and R was trying to keep her head down. But it was clear she was feeling the heat too. A and the other employees were considering their options, and some were already looking for new jobs. It was a lot to take in. I felt bad for E and the kids, and I worried about my former coworkers. But I also felt a bit of relief knowing I was out of that mess. I had moved on, and I didn't need to get dragged back into their drama. Over the next few weeks, I kept in touch with A and some of the other former coworkers. They updated me on the latest developments, and it sounded like things were only getting worse. E was determined to get what she deserved, and M was fighting back hard. The office morale was at an all-time low, and people were starting to jump ship. One evening I received a call from E. She sounded exhausted, but there was a steely determination in her voice. I just wanted to thank you again for telling me the truth, she said. It's been hard, but I'm glad I know. I couldn't keep living a lie. We talked for a while, and she filled me in on some of the details of the divorce proceedings. It was clear that M was trying to make things as difficult as possible for her, but E was holding her ground. She had hired a good lawyer and was fighting for her rights and the well-being of her kids. After we hung up, I couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. I was proud of E for standing up for herself, but I was also sad that things had come to this. It was a reminder that actions have consequences, and sometimes those consequences can be devastating. As the months went by, I continued to focus on my new job and building a new routine. My husband and I settled into a comfortable rhythm, and we started to feel more stable. I still thought about the old job and the people I left behind, but I tried not to dwell on it too much. Then one day, I received an unexpected email. It was from R. My heart raced as I opened it, unsure of what to expect. The email was short and to the point. Hi, I know we haven't spoken since everything happened, but I wanted to reach out and apologize. I know I played a part in the mess, and I'm sorry for the pain it caused you and everyone else. I hope you're doing well. RR, I stared at the email, not sure how to respond. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to leave the past behind and not open old wounds. But another part of me felt that maybe this was a chance for some closure. I took a deep breath and replied, Hi R, thank you for your message. It's been a difficult time for everyone involved, and I appreciate your apology. I hope you're finding a way to move forward as well. My name. It wasn't much, but it felt like a small step towards healing. I didn't expect to hear back from R, and I didn't. But it felt good to acknowledge her attempt to make amends. even if it was just a brief exchange. A few weeks later, I got another update from A. She told me that E had finally won the custody battle for the kids, and M was ordered to pay child support and alimony. The business was going through some changes, and it looked like M was going to have to sell his share. R had left the company, and the office was in the process of hiring new staff to fill the gaps. It felt like the end of an era. The franchise I once knew was changing, and the people I worked with were moving on. It was bittersweet, but it also felt like a fresh start for everyone involved. As for me, I continued to grow in my new role. I made new friends, learned new skills, and found a renewed sense of purpose. My husband and I decided to take a short vacation to celebrate our resilience and to take a break from all the stress we had been under. We chose a quiet beach town where we could relax and recharge. It was just what we needed. We spent our days lounging by the water, exploring local shops, and enjoying each other's company. It was a reminder of the simple joys in life and the importance of taking time to care for ourselves. When we returned, I felt more at peace with everything that had happened. Life had thrown some serious challenges my way, but I had come out the other side stronger and more determined. I knew there would always be difficult times, but I also knew I had the strength to face them. One afternoon, as I was settling into my new routine, I received another call from E. This time, her voice was lighter, more hopeful. "I wanted to let you know that I've decided to start my own business," she said. "It's going to be tough, but I'm excited for this new chapter." I congratulated her and offered my support. We talked about her plans and how she was finding ways to balance her new venture with raising her kids. It was inspiring to hear her so determined and hopeful. A few days later, I received a letter in the mail. It was from E, and inside was a heartfelt note thanking me for my support and courage. She also included a small gift card to a local spa with a note saying, "You deserve some relaxation. Thank you for being a true friend." That letter meant more to me than I could express. It was a reminder that despite the pain and hardship, there were still moments of kindness and gratitude. It reinforced the idea that doing the right thing, even when it's difficult, is always worth it. As time went on, I heard less and less about the old office. People moved on, and new stories took their place. I stayed in touch with a few former coworkers, but the intense drama of those days became a distant memory. Life continued to move forward. My husband and I started planning for the future, discussing our goals and dreams. We knew there would be challenges, but we also knew we could face them together. Looking back on everything that happened, I realized that it had all taught me valuable lessons about integrity, resilience, and the importance of standing up for what's right. It wasn't an easy journey, but it was one that helped shape who I am today. I still think about M, E, and R from time to time, wondering how they're doing and hoping they found their own paths to happiness. Life has a way of throwing curveballs, and all we can do is learn from them and keep moving forward. In the end, I'm grateful for the support of my husband, friends, and the new opportunities that came my way. It wasn't the path I had planned, but it was one that led me to a place of strength and peace. But really, my brother have more sad story. Listen, I want to share my story, a long and painful journey that took me from what I thought was a perfect relationship to betrayal. I started dating this girl, let's call her Emma, right after high school. By all accounts, we had the perfect relationship. We were both professionals in our respective fields of study and both wanted the same things out of life: stability, a family, a nice home. Her parents adored me, and everything seemed great. We were that couple everyone thought would be together forever. Emma and I were practically inseparable in those early days. We had a lot of common interests and dreams for the future. We spent our weekends exploring new places, hiking, and enjoying quiet nights watching movies. Our relationship felt like a fairy tale, and I was convinced we were meant to be. After 5 years of dating, Emma started asking over and over when we would get married. Not a day went by without her bringing it up. "When are you going to propose? When are we getting married?" It was like a broken record. At first, I thought it was sweet, a sign of how much she loved me and wanted to be with me forever. But as time went on, it became a bit much. Still, I loved her and wanted to make her happy. So I started planning the proposal. I remember the day I proposed like it was yesterday. It was a beautiful autumn day, and I had planned a picnic at our favorite park. I was nervous but excited. As we sat under a large oak tree, I handed Emma a small box. Her eyes lit up as she opened it to find the ring. I asked her to marry me, and she said yes with tears in her eyes. It was one of the happiest moments of my life. A year later, we were married in a beautiful vineyard. My high school best friend Mark was my best man, and another good friend officiated the ceremony. It was a perfect day. The sun was shining, our families were there, and I felt like I was on top of the world. Emma looked stunning in her wedding dress, and as I watched her walk down the aisle, I felt an overwhelming sense of love and gratitude. We took our honeymoon on a remote tropical island for 2 weeks, just the two of us, and it was magical. But when we got home, things started to change. It wasn't long after our honeymoon that I noticed my best friend Mark was acting strangely. He went missing for a few days, and when he returned, he confessed to his wife and his dad that he had been carrying on a string of affairs. He said he just needed to come clean. I was shocked, but didn't think it had anything to do with me. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of my nightmare. Mark's confession had a ripple effect on everyone around him. His wife was devastated, and their relationship was in shambles. I tried to be there for him, offering support and understanding, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. I never suspected that his actions would directly impact my life in such a profound way. A few days later, Emma went missing too. She refused to talk to me, didn't answer my calls or texts. I was frantic, driving around town looking for her. Finally, I decided to check Mark's house. To my utter disbelief, there she was. I blew up, demanding to know how long this had been going on. Mark just looked at me and said, "A while." I felt like the ground had been pulled out from under me. I later found out that Emma and Mark had been having an affair for a little over 2 years, even before she was begging me to get married. My best friend, my best man, had stood by my side with a straight face as I declared my undying love to Emma in front of all our friends and family. The betrayal was too much to bear. The discovery of their affair shattered me. I couldn't believe that two people I trusted most had deceived me for so long. I started to question everything, every interaction, every moment we had shared. It was like my entire reality had been turned upside down. The nights were the hardest. I couldn't sleep, and my mind was constantly racing with thoughts of their betrayal. I packed all my things and moved to a different state. For a short while, I tried to reconcile with Emma, but it was futile. The trust was gone, and every time I looked at her, all I could see was the betrayal. We eventually divorced, and I tried to move on with my life. Leaving was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made, but I knew I had to do it for my own sanity. After some time, I started dating another girl. Let's call her Lisa. We hit it off pretty well, and life seemed to be getting back on track. We bought a big house together, 4 bedrooms, just the two of us. Everything was great until Lisa's best friend had a tragedy, and we let her and her boyfriend move in with us. Her boyfriend John and I became fast friends. John was a bit of a mess. His days were pretty much wake up, smoke weed, maybe go to work at his part-time cook gig down the road. He tried to move out a few times, but always had trouble, so I kept letting him move back in. 4 years into our relationship, Lisa and I got engaged. Life was good again. We had a beautiful home, and I felt like I had finally put the past behind me. But then, just like before, things started to go downhill. Lisa began smoking weed all the time. Now, I don't have a problem with weed in general, but it can't be your whole life. She started lying to me constantly. I was working a swing shift at a hospital around this time, and I had a nagging feeling that something was wrong. The lies started small. She'd say she was going to the store, but would be gone for hours. She started hiding her phone and acting suspiciously. My gut told me something was off, but I didn't want to believe it. After everything I'd been through, the thought of facing another betrayal was too much to bear. I decided to set a trap. I took an old cell phone, plugged it in, and hid it with the recorder running. My suspicions were confirmed. Lisa and John were cheating. I was devastated. I kicked them both out immediately. A month later, they were best man and maid of honor at my brother's wedding. It was the ultimate slap in the face. I never spoke to any of them ever again. The betrayal from 2 women I loved and 2 best friends left a scar that took a long time to heal. I questioned my judgment, my ability to trust, and even my own worth. But eventually I realized that their actions said more about them than about me. I had been loyal, loving, and supportive qualities that they had taken for granted. During my time in that big house, I did a lot of soul searching. I had to confront the parts of me that allowed people to take advantage of my kindness and loyalty. I learned that setting boundaries is crucial and that not everyone deserves a place in your life just because they were once important to you. After Lisa and John were out of my life, I decided to focus on myself. I threw myself into my work at the hospital, took up new hobbies, and spent more time with friends who genuinely cared about me. It wasn't easy, but I slowly started to rebuild my life. I began seeing a therapist, which helped me process the betrayals and work through my trust issues. It was during one of these sessions that I realized how much I had been compromising my own happiness for the sake of others. I decided that from then on, I would put myself first and not let anyone take advantage of my good nature. One of the hardest things was learning to forgive not for their sake, but for mine. Holding on to the anger and resentment was only hurting me. I had to let go of the past to make room for a better future. So I started to forgive Emma, Mark, Lisa, and John, not because they deserved it, but because I deserved peace. Eventually, I felt ready to date again, but this time I was more cautious. I took things slow, ensuring that I really knew the person before getting too deeply involved. I met a wonderful woman named Sarah, and for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful about the future. Sarah was different from anyone I had ever dated. She was kind, understanding, and most importantly, honest. We took our time getting to know each other, building a solid foundation of trust and respect. When I finally told her about my past, she listened without judgment and supported me as I continued to heal. We've been together for a few years now, and I can honestly say I've never been happier. We're planning to get married next year, but this time, there's no rush, no pressure. We're doing it because we both truly want to, not because it's expected or demanded. Looking back, I realized that those painful experiences shaped me into the person I am today. They taught me the importance of self-respect, the value of true friendship, and the power of resilience. I've learned that life is too short to waste on people who don't value you, and that it's okay to walk away from relationships that no longer serve you. If you're going through something similar, know that it does get better. It might take time, and it might be incredibly painful, but you will come out stronger on the other side. Surround yourself with people who genuinely care about you, take time to heal, and never lose sight of your own worth. In those dark moments, I often reflected on the positive aspects of my life. I thought about my supportive family, the genuine friends I still had, and the potential for a brighter future. I started journaling, writing down my thoughts and feelings, which helped me process my emotions and gain clarity. I also immersed myself in activities that brought me joy. I joined a local hiking club and started exploring the beautiful trails in my new state. The fresh air and physical activity were therapeutic, helping me clear my mind and regain a sense of peace. I also took up painting, something I had always wanted to try but never had the time for. It became a creative outlet that allowed me to express myself and find solace. My journey to healing wasn't a straight path. There were days when the pain of betrayal would resurface, and I would feel overwhelmed by sadness and anger. But each time, I reminded myself of how far I had come and the strength I had discovered within myself. I leaned on my support system, my family, true friends, and therapist, to help me navigate those tough days. As time passed, I started to see the betrayals as life lessons rather than just painful experiences. They taught me to be more discerning about the people I let into my life and to value myself more. I realized that I deserved to be with someone who respected and loved me for who I am and who shared my values and goals. One of the most significant changes I made was learning to trust my instincts. In both of my past relationships, there were red flags that I ignored or dismissed because I didn't want to face the reality. I promised myself that I would never again disregard my gut feelings, and that I would always prioritize my well-being. Meeting Sarah was like a breath of fresh air. She was genuine, kind-hearted, and we connected on a deep level. We shared similar values and dreams for the future, and our relationship was built on mutual respect and trust. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly happy and content. We took our time getting to know each other, enjoying the journey without rushing into anything. We traveled together, explored new hobbies, and supported each other's personal and professional growth. When I finally proposed to her, it was a moment filled with love and joy, free from the doubts and pressures that had overshadowed my previous engagement. As our wedding day approaches, I can't help but feel a sense of gratitude for the journey that brought me here. The pain and betrayals of the past are now distant memories, overshadowed by the love and happiness I've found with Sarah. I'm excited about our future together and confident that we can face any challenges that come our way. Looking back, I realized that those painful experiences were necessary for my growth. They pushed me to confront my weaknesses, build my resilience, and ultimately find a love that is genuine and fulfilling. Life may not always go according to plan, but sometimes, the detours lead us to exactly where we need to be. If you're reading this and going through a similar experience, I want you to know that you are not alone. Healing takes time, and it's okay to feel lost and overwhelmed. But never lose sight of your worth, and don't be afraid to let go of relationships that no longer serve you. Trust in yourself and your journey, and know that better days are ahead. Thank you for reading my story. I hope it helps someone out there who's struggling with betrayal and heartbreak. Remember, you are stronger than you think, and you deserve to be happy. Life has a way of working out, even when it seems like everything is falling apart. Keep moving forward, and never lose hope.